Today we're diving into a complex and sensitive topic, countries with reported anti-white sentiment. Now, before we get bombarded with angry comments, let's be clear. This isn't about pointing fingers or labeling entire nations as bad. It's about acknowledging that historical baggage, political tensions, and cultural differences can sometimes manifest in ways that make certain groups feel unwelcome. Remember, these countries are not inherently anti-white, and individual experiences can vary greatly. So, buckle up as we unpack the complexities of traveling while white in a world painted in shades of gray. Ah, North Korea. The land of meticulously choreographed rallies, enigmatic leaders, and enough anti-Western propaganda to make a Hollywood screenwriter blush. For white travelers, particularly Americans, gaining access to this secretive nation is like trying to win a staring contest with a statue, incredibly difficult and, let's be honest, a little unsettling. North Korea's stringent visa policies are legendary, making it one of the most difficult countries to visit, regardless of your ethnicity. However, the perception of anti-white sentiment stems from the government's relentless demonization of Western powers, particularly the United States. This narrative, deeply ingrained through state-controlled media, paints a picture of the West as an imperialist force bent on undermining their socialist paradise. Tourists are closely monitored, interactions with locals are limited, and any deviation from the approved itinerary is met with swift disapproval. It's a reminder that in North Korea, the personal and the political are inextricably intertwined, and navigating that minefield requires a healthy dose of caution and awareness. Somalia, a nation synonymous with breathtaking coastlines, resilient people, and unfortunately, decades of conflict and instability. For white travelers, Somalia presents a unique set of challenges, stemming from a complex tapestry of historical tensions, security concerns, and cultural differences. Somalia's long and troubled relationship with maritime piracy has undoubtedly impacted its image on the world stage. Beyond piracy, Somalia has been ravaged by civil war, terrorism, and a fragile government struggling to exert control. This volatile cocktail creates an unpredictable and often dangerous environment for travelers, especially those perceived as outsiders. The threat of kidnapping for ransom, particularly targeting Westerners, is a very real concern. Traveling to Somalia, particularly for white individuals, requires careful consideration, extensive research, and a healthy dose of caution. Eritrea, nestled along the Red Sea, is a nation of stark beauty and a history marked by both resilience and repression. Often dubbed Africa's North Korea, Eritrea operates under an authoritarian regime with a notoriously poor human rights record. For white travelers, navigating this tightly controlled society requires a delicate balance of awareness, respect, and a high tolerance for bureaucracy. Eritrea's visa process is notoriously opaque and difficult, with reports of arbitrary denials and lengthy delays. The perception of anti-white sentiment stems from a combination of factors. Eritrea's history of colonization by Italy, followed by a brutal war of independence with Ethiopia, has left a legacy of distrust towards foreign powers. Foreigners are often perceived as potential spies or agents of Western influence, leading to a sense of being watched and monitored. Traveling there requires a deep understanding of these complexities and a willingness to engage with sensitivity. Yemen, a land of ancient history, stunning landscapes, and sadly, a heartbreaking present. Engulfed in a brutal civil war since 2014, Yemen has become synonymous with humanitarian catastrophe and a breeding ground for extremism. For white travelers, particularly Westerners, Yemen is a no-go zone. A stark reminder that even the most beautiful corners of the world can be ravaged by conflict and instability. The ongoing war, fueled by regional power struggles and a complex web of alliances, has created a humanitarian crisis of unimaginable proportions. Amidst this chaos, anti-Western sentiment has flourished, fueled by the perception of foreign intervention and the devastating consequences of drone strikes. This has created a deep well of resentment and distrust towards the West, particularly the United States. For white travelers, the risks in Yemen are simply too great to ignore. South Sudan, the world's youngest nation, emerged from decades of conflict with hopes of a brighter future. Yet, this fragile peace has been marred by renewed violence, ethnic tensions, and a humanitarian crisis that continues to grip the nation. For white travelers, South Sudan presents a complex and often unpredictable environment, requiring a nuanced understanding of the country's turbulent present and a deep respect for its diverse cultures. Internal power struggles, ethnic rivalries, and economic instability quickly plunged the nation into a brutal civil war. While a peace agreement was signed in 2018, the situation remains fragile, with sporadic violence and a pervasive sense of insecurity. Ethnic tensions, while not inherently anti-white, can spill over into violence, and foreigners may find themselves caught in the crossfire. The presence of armed groups, bandits, and a lack of reliable law enforcement outside of urban centers further complicates matters. Afghanistan, a nation etched in history, evokes images of soaring mountains, ancient civilizations, and sadly, decades of conflict and instability. The recent Taliban takeover has once again thrust this war-torn country into the headlines, raising questions about its future and the safety of its people, particularly for those perceived as outsiders. For white travelers, particularly Westerners, Afghanistan has long been considered a high-risk destination, and the recent political upheaval has only amplified those concerns. The Taliban's ideology, rooted in a strict interpretation of Islamic law, is often at odds with Western values, making cultural sensitivity paramount, but also potentially difficult to navigate. The group's history of violence against those deemed un-Islamic cannot be ignored, and the potential for arbitrary detention or worse is a chilling reality. Navigating these cultural nuances requires sensitivity, respect, and a willingness to adapt to a very different way of life. Iran, a nation steeped in ancient history and vibrant culture, has a complex relationship with the West. For white travelers, Iran presents a fascinating paradox, a country with a rich history of hospitality and political animosity towards the West. The 1979 revolution ushered in an era of anti-Western sentiment, fueled by foreign interference and a US-backed coup. Navigating this complex landscape requires sensitivity, awareness, and engaging with Iranians on their terms. Expressing genuine interest in their culture and respecting their customs can bridge the divide. Cuba, an island nation frozen in time, evokes images of vintage cars and crumbling colonial architecture, a socialist revolution in perpetual standoff with the United States. For white travelers, Cuba offers a unique blend of warm hospitality and lingering political tensions. The 1959 Cuban Revolution continues to cast a long shadow over US-Cuba relations. The US embargo has deepened the divide between the two nations. Navigating this complex landscape requires sensitivity and awareness. While overt hostility is rare, skepticism or resentment, especially among older generations, is not uncommon. Engaging with Cubans on a personal level can bridge the divide. Venezuela, a nation blessed with natural beauty and plagued by political turmoil, has become synonymous with economic collapse, social unrest, and a mass exodus of its people. For white travelers, particularly Americans, Venezuela presents a complex and often challenging destination requiring careful consideration, thorough research, and a nuanced understanding of the country's turbulent present. Venezuela's political crisis, fueled by corruption, mismanagement, and a dramatic decline in oil prices, has plunged the nation into a humanitarian crisis of staggering proportions. Amidst this chaos, anti-American sentiment has flourished, fueled by the Venezuelan government's rhetoric blaming the United States for its economic woes. The US government's support for opposition figures and its imposition of economic sanctions have only served to deepen the divide between the two nations. For white travelers, particularly Americans, navigating this complex political landscape requires a high degree of caution and awareness. While overt hostility towards foreigners is rare, the potential for crime, particularly targeting those perceived as wealthy, is a serious concern. Zimbabwe, a nation grappling with colonialism, liberation, and controversial land reform, presents a challenging experience for white travelers. The country boasts natural beauty and rich cultural heritage, but also bears scars of racial tensions and political instability. The land reform program aimed to address colonial land ownership, giving the black population access to fertile land. Violent farm seizures and economic mismanagement plunged the nation into chaos, triggering hyperinflation. For white travelers, navigating this landscape requires sensitivity and a willingness to engage with locals. Well, there you have it, a glimpse into 10 countries grappling with complex issues that can sometimes manifest as anti-white sentiment. Remember, These reports do not define entire nations, and individual experiences can vary. Always research thoroughly, check government travel advisories, and exercise caution and cultural sensitivity. What might seem like a harmless gesture or comment in one culture could be misconstrued in another. Stay informed about local conditions and consider consulting with travel experts or local guides. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content.